We are currently living in a digital experience. It's a very exciting time. There's an abundance of technology, cloud, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data analytics, sensors and devices and connectivity. I am quite excited. And I'm more excited about leveraging this technology towards gaining insight, towards adding value to your daily lives. But our talk today is also going to not only talk about technology, but also it's going to talk about key things to consider when you want to invest in technology. And I think that's really key in the agri space right now. But before we get into that, I want to give you a real world story. So the pictures you're seeing right now are pictures of one of the first farms that we digitized. We went out to the farm, we wanted to get our hands dirty, both literally and figuratively, and we installed a bunch of technology and we deployed, and on the day one, everything was connected and real-time information was flowing right to the farmer in a phone. Fast forward to day 237. Now, in Industry 4.0 and in digital transformation, it is globally known one of the big challenges are people pushback. And we would like to introduce a new phenomenon which we call cow pushback that we have experienced. So one morning, one of the cows decided to wake up and had this idea to walk up the mountain, went to where we had our Internet of Things base station deployed. He sniffed out all the cables and he decided to eat one of them. He strategically chose the one that was used to track all the cattle and all the devices. Now, the lesson learned here, and this is a true story, this actually happened a few weeks ago. The lesson here is there's a lot of practicalities when it comes to technology, and there's a lot of unknowns. No one can predict everything. And your technology providers and your technology adoption needs to cater for this, especially in the agricultural space. My name is Priaash. I'm joined by Estelle, and we are from the Awareness Company, and we tell stories from data. Our mission and our purpose is to empower people, organizations, and communities to create positive impact. And our mechanism of doing this is via data and technology. So let's talk a little bit about data and the shift that has happened with data across time. Right in the beginning, we communicated lessons learned, we communicated success stories by telling stories, by sitting around a campfire and telling stories, and that's how we translated and communicated information. And we must please still continue to do this. The principles are still the same. But what's been happening over the last 10 to 20 years is that there's been too much information. It's information overload, and we've heard a lot of this today. So our definition of Industry 4.0 is how do we now learn to leverage all of this abundance of information, data, and technology to create value? It's time to bridge that gap. Technology is available, but how do we optimize? How do we utilize that? You see, data and analyzing data should not be the farmer's greatest pain. It really should be, technology should be one of their greatest tools and assets. So let's delve a little deeper into that. Let's delve into the why, the how, the challenges, and the realities. Estelle.
Okay, so let's take a step back and look holistically at the key aspects you need to consider about why you want to invest in technology, right? With the growing population, environmental factors, economic problems, and ever-changing circumstances, there is a shift needed towards precision farming, smart farming, but ultimately data-driven farming, right? And technology is making a whole bunch of promises, some of which, the most important ones are listed here. They're promising to improve your efficiencies, and with that, the technology is specifically promising to extend the farmer's capacity. That means growing your operation, saving your time, while still increasing your control. The second promise surrounds cost. On the one hand, saving you cost. So the technology is promising that you will be able to, for example, optimize your product use. Whether it's fertilizer, it doesn't really matter. On the other hand, they're also promising that they're going to increase your profits. So increase your crop yield, increase your productivity of your livestock, while also improving on the quality of your product. The last promise surrounds sustainability. So on the one hand, sustainability of you as a farmer running a business, but then also sustainability of the environment. So your impact on the environment, whether it's using less water, reducing your pollution, doesn't really matter. Now let's look at some of the key challenges and arguments surrounding all of this when you start looking at investing in technology. One of the first key challenges is that this is one of the most conservative domains. And even though we're seeing an adoption of technology increasing every day and day, the fact that traditional approaches is so abundant, and even the traditional mindset, is kind of limiting the solutions that are out there, but more importantly, it's limiting the improvement of those solutions and that loop of improving it a lot. The second thing is that, unfortunately, most of the farms right now is not in a very satisfactory state from a tax perspective. And that's because, I mean, most of the farmers have done things for years in the same way, and now all of a sudden you have to start think about delivering or implementing tech, and the farm is just really not ready for it. And with that challenge, the farmer really needs to be eager to start somewhere. We're not suggesting an entire tech makeover first go. It's just important to at least start somewhere small. The third thing is cost. So an initial investment in technology can be costly, right? But over here, you need to focus on the fact that your initial investment must be seen as a long-term investment. And then lack of education and skills is one of the biggest challenges in technology adoption across the domain. So not only are you going to have to invest in the technology, you're also going to have to invest in the skills and the people and individuals on your farm. And the fifth thing ties back to the technical state and the technology state of the farm, and that's telecommunication infrastructure. And this is a global issue for agriculture around the world. And what we're saying here is that as a minimum, at least somewhere on your farm, you should have a good internet connection. And the reason for that is that if you deploy technology and you don't have that, the value that you get out of that technology will be limited. And any analytics that you do on the data that you get from that technology will be outdated because you're not getting updates, you're not getting the latest analytics. You're always a step behind. So what is the reality you need to know before you make this leap of investing in technology? And what are we seeing on the ground daily when we speak to farmers? Firstly, we're finding that farmers are saying that they don't know how to use the technology to get the insights that was promised to them. And this struggle is being made a lot harder from our perspective by solution providers that are overpromising and under-delivering. And essentially, the farmer is really not getting what was promised to them. And with that, the farmers end up paying costly subscriptions to, for example, get an SMS alert when a cow leaves a geofence. No real-time location tracking, no historical data analytics. Farmers need to realize that an SMS is not real-time tracking. A dot on a map, or even a heat map, is not data analytics. Honestly, I think that sometimes right now, farmers have gotten so burned with technology that they don't know whether they're going to get that value from the tech. They don't even know if they buy this specific sensor, if it's going to work in their domain. And I think it's a combination of influx and a flood of technology and solution providers, but also the fact that we need to start realizing what is the things that is working on the farm very fast. So, considering all of this, What is the recipe that you should follow when you start to look at investing in technology? Firstly, we feel it's very important that you need to realize that you're going to have to undergo a mind shift. Again, I'd like to reiterate that you should see any expenses as a long-term investment that can potentially bring you in way more money than what you spent implementing it. And then, more importantly, continuous innovation is what makes digitization a success in any domain. So the fact that something works today doesn't mean that it will work as efficiently tomorrow, but that also doesn't mean that you have to sit and wait for the perfect solution. You cannot afford to sit and wait for the perfect solution. Your solution should be adopting with the technology as technology gets better. The second thing is that you have to take a data-driven approach, a holistic data-driven approach whenever you make a whenever you make a decision. So the success of the technology that you implement will ultimately be dependent on how you use the data to make your decisions and your insights, right? That together with the fact that everything influences each other, and even if you take just the farm, for example, the weather, your fertilizers, your pesticides, everything is influencing at the end of the day what your crop yield is going to be. That same mindset should be taken with the technology that's monitoring all of these things for you. They should be integratable. You should be able to analyze their data together holistically to get to those deeper insights. And this is crucial, and I've heard this mentioned a few times over the last few days as well. There are solution providers that aren't very open to this, so it's your job as a farmer to really investigate that you'll be able to make use of this data and compare it to your other data. You'll be able to integrate it to really get the value out of it. Then, you cannot afford to be tech research lazy. You need to make sure that the technology will work on your farm. You need to make sure that it can take the heat and the rain and everything that comes with it, even the cow that goes and bites the cables off. And then you also need to make sure that the technology providers understand your actual problems, and that by the end of that, the tech will answer your actual questions. And last but not least, you have to be ready for the change and the challenges. You need to be ready for the problems that come with digitization and digital transformation. You need to be ready to learn how to use technology, learn how to use data, but more importantly, learn how to upskill your people to make use of the technology and the data so that they can go and move that soil moisture sensor to a better position because they use the technology outputs to see and make decisions that that soil moisture sensor should be in another location. The adopting of technology is not a new thing. It just takes on different forms. Way back when, farmers were planting seeds with their hands. Then Industrial Revolution came. Food production had to get more, higher. So you went and bought a tractor. You learned how to drive that tractor. You learned how to maintain that tractor. You even taught your people how to drive and maintain that tractor. The same mindset should be taken for Industry 4.0 technology. You need to learn how to use the sensor and the data and everything that comes with it and the solutions.
Sorry. So, what should the technology give you? I mean, that is one of the first key lessons that we learned, to ask that question first. What is it? It really doesn't and should not start with the technology, and I'm an engineer saying that. It should start with the problem, with the output, with the need, with the requirement, and it must help you optimize. It must help you increase your yield, your profitability, and it must give you real-time insights. And you'll hear us talking a lot about real-time insights and why we think that's so important. We've seen the benefit of using real-time information, and when we talk about real-time, we really mean having access to your farm information when you need it on a continuous basis. It's not about a static report or a static analytics about something specific. You want access to your information. It's your information. So, telling you a little bit about what we do at the Awareness Company and what's our approach. So, independent of any technology provider, us included, one of the key messages we want to get out is to please take a holistic approach to your technology adoption. And what that means tangibly is, say you want to solve a very specific problem of irrigation scheduling. You'll approach the market, you'll find a solution, but we advise to ask certain questions to the providers. Can this solution that's going to solve the irrigation scheduling integrate with other systems and sensors that I have on my farm? Can I have access to the data on a continuous basis? Will this technology that I'm about to procure helping me solving a specific problem, can I aggregate that information in the future with other technologies that I'm going to procure? We truly believe, and we've seen this firsthand, that real value comes when you aggregate all the pieces of information in a farm into one place. Gaining access and overlaying a number of pieces of information, that is really where true value comes out. It doesn't matter if you're doing livestock tracking, or if you're doing crop management, or if you want to understand security threats or risk management on your farm. Take a holistic view. And that's not to say that you're going to do a full big bang and deploy all of these pieces in one go. That's not going to happen. You start with your immediate problems and you build it up. But build up your entire technology ecosystem to speak to each other. That is critical for us. And I mentioned storytelling as a mechanism earlier. We at the Awareness Company have chosen storytelling as the mechanism to communicate insights, as the mechanism to provide the insights. It's all about what's the story, whether it's what's going on in my farm right now. Some of you sitting here right now, are you wondering what's going on with the farm? Can you log on somewhere and see and get the status updates? Did everyone that you tasked do what they were supposed to do? Can I have an understanding of any alerts on my cattle? Am I living in an area currently where my farm is that there's been security threats? How do we link that up? So our idea is to use storytelling as that communication mechanism. But let's give you a little bit of a practical example.
So with the digitalization of our first farm, as Priaash mentioned, it's up and running in a day. Everything's integrated, digitized. And what was really amazing was the multiple insights that came out just in the first week. For example, something simple like visualizing the tracking that comes from a sensor around cattle's neck in real time, but also visualizing it over different visual analytical views. The farmer was able to pick up that 2 specific cows were walking exactly the same distances at exactly the same time. Now, this differed from the rest of the herd, and it was a clear outlier. And upon investigation, it turned out that one of the cows actually had cancer in its one eye. Now, lessons learned like that was easy to detect because the farmer was able to use the data to see that there is an anomaly. And we now get that feedback, and we are able to build in AI that helps us recognize that pattern and even spread it out to all of our other users that might not be analyzing that specific thing at that specific time and missing it. Currently, this farmer, and I quote, cannot farm without Hydra. Hydra is our product, by the way. It's easy to use, and everything is in real time.
So on the back of some of those successes that we've had, we're currently on this mission to provide new innovation, technology into the agricultural sector, but we're also on a mission to advise as to what technology is out there, what works, what doesn't work, what's going to work for you. Every farm is different, whether it's a type of farm, whether it's the location, there are unique challenges to you, and that is what we are really after at the moment. So what we want to do at this point is give you some practical, tangible examples ranging from capability management to livestock insights to data and reporting and analytics of what it can potentially look like. And we're going to use our own technology to give you some of these demonstration examples.
Great. So this is specifically the farm where we deployed first. We have permission to show it. And with this, I'm going to go through a bunch of examples. So firstly, we realized that for a farmer to do capability management, they need to know what the personnel is doing, but they also need to know what's happening on the farm, right? With that realization, we gave the people on the ground the ability to log information as it happens in the field. Like there, a new cattle birth is logged. Everything about that specific calf is being logged, even the location where the birth happened. You can attach photos, images. But more importantly, that cow is an asset inside Hydra. We can track everything about that cow. We can track everything about that mom. We know who the dad is, who that cow's mother was, everything that happened to that cow. Did she have an embryo implant and then artificial insemination and then placed with a bull? So that over time we can understand that, listen, every time I order embryo from America, every time this cow does not get pregnant with embryos. Now we can start making informed decisions. We took this insights, I just want to make sure, yeah. And then we couple it with, for example, the tracking devices around the cattle's neck. Now, you can not only see where your cattle is going, but you know specifically it's this cattle. You can click on it, you can see more information. We can analyze the efficiency of that specific cow. We know where the water points are on the farm because those are resources as well. We know where the good vegetation is because we overlay imagery analytics from drone companies. And now you can make informed decisions like, should I move my water point maybe? Again, taking in consideration other factors like security and all of those things as well. So talking about IoT, we also integrate all of your sensors, different types of sensors on the farm. And on top of just having the ability to view your sensor information live, we also allow you to create rules and alerts on top of it, so that you get an alert when you need to replace your batteries, or you get an alert when a motion sensor is being triggered and no one should be in that storeroom at this time. We then also add artificial intelligence on top of the sensor outputs. For example, what you're looking at is the integration of a bush camera or camera trap. Most farms have this. Giving you an alert when a person or a human is detected, and not, for example, when a porcupine walks past at 2 o'clock in the morning when you are trying to get your precious sleep. And this is just another example of how we digitizing your farm by not giving you more admin or keeping you awake. So with the advantage of the fact that the workers actually are walking around with smartphones now because they're logging data for you, we saw that we can turn the smartphone into an IoT device as well. So now you don't need to buy a sensor to track your personnel or even log temperature, because some of the phones can log temperature, humidity, things like that. You know where your farm workers are. There's no more million calls. Did you go turn on the generator or the pump? Have you gone to the kraal to do this and this and this? You log onto Hydra, you see as the events happen, you can track your personnel. And it's really easy. Another important part of operations is scheduling, right? You want to be able to schedule your jobs. You want to be able to schedule things like vaccinations, anything that happens. Even your vehicle trips. Along with your vehicle trips, you have vehicle refuels. We want to be able to log that. Again, the vehicle on the vehicle refuel is an asset. So we're logging that vehicle as an asset. We can investigate everything that's happened to this specific vehicle. How many refuels it has, what is the maintenance that happened to this vehicle. But even more than that, we can give you an alert when you should be thinking about replacing or renewing your license on the vehicle. So I want you guys to start seeing how, if you just have everything integrated, how easy it becomes to just add on all of these daily things that you're doing. All right, so then we also realized that sometimes right now you still need to send reports to other people or companies in the value chain in your agriculture solutions, right? So this is specifically as a Simbra breeder, so they need to send all of these reports to breed plan, 200 days, 400 days, weighing, all of those things. We made it really easy to just export it so that you can send it. because everything is already in Hydra. The goal is obviously to integrate directly with these systems in the future. But right now, the value of just giving her that Excel export takes us minutes to do, and she can already do it. And it just saves them so much admin and headache. Then, real-time reporting and analytics is obviously key. With a push of a button, you should be seeing what's happening, forgot to play it, happening on your farm. And simple stats and awareness is very important. But if you visualize all of these things very correctly, you can have a complete mind shift in the way that you understand and interact with your data. For example, we're looking there at where things has happened over time. You're looking at tracking distances off, whether it's your personnel, your vehicles, your cattle, it doesn't really matter. We can also see specifically with, again, tracking analysis, where the most time is spent. So visualizing something simple like where the most time is spent for a cow helps the farmer infer when that cow's moved away to give birth or when an animal is sick. But for your personnel, it means where are they spending the most time. If you get a contractor into your game farm and they need to get rid of all the prickly pears, we can log where they've spent the most time so that ecologists can go back and see that those prickly pears are actually dying. Then we do simple things like logging of your network as well. Because when you make the decision of buying, for example, a sensor, you need to know that that sensor is going to work at that specific place on your farm. And this isn't just mobile network signal. This is whether you're using LoRa, Sigfox, satellite, doesn't really matter. Once you have sensors on the farm, we measure those strengths and visualize it for you so that you can make an informed decision when you buy your sensors. The last thing I want to leave you with is just a practical dashboard that shows you how we can change behavior. So this is energy monitoring, more applicable maybe to urban farms. But the whole idea here was that the operational people should be looking at something and they should take action from it. And right now here, they get billed on peak demand or peaks that go up. And live now they can see when the electricity usage is busy peaking. They're on the ground, they're doing operations, so they know what is causing it. They are intervening, and from day one, we are saving this client masses of money just because they got rid of those peaks, because they have a live view of their sensor data.
Okay, so, I mean, what we're really saying, it's really about continuous innovation, independent of who your technology provider is. It's so important that you get continuous innovation, but also it's so important to drive it from your side. Innovation without a problem, a need, a requirement isn't going to be of much value. So demand that from your technology providers. And also make sure there's integratability, interoperability in whatever technology you are procuring. Our approach is to integrate everything. Independent of connectivity provider, GSM, satellite, LoRa, Sigfox, doesn't matter to us. And it shouldn't matter. We integrate with drones, we integrate with devices, we integrate with other applications and systems and sensors. The goal is to have this holistic piece of information so that you can aggregate, and it just enhances your potential for insight going forward. So who are we actually standing in front of you talking about all of this technology and what makes us different from everyone else out there? Our team was fortunate enough to work in a defense, security, and conservation background for over 10 years. And one of the biggest projects we're really honored to have been part of was the counter-rhino poaching crisis in South Africa and in the SADC region, and we were technology providers in that. And that was over 8 years ago. We worked with tech in very different environments that weren't used to technology previously, and we want to bring a lot of those lessons learned, and we are bringing it currently into the agricultural sector. But what makes tech work isn't the tech itself. It's the adoption and success of the technology. It's the people that is going to use it. It must be easy to use. It must give you the value that you need. And we ourselves are laser focused on user experience. And we ask you to ask your technology providers to be the same. They must give you the value you need. They must listen to new requirements. So to summarize, it's really about this continuous innovation, and it's really about taking a holistic view towards your technology adoption when you want to invest in technology. Simply put, without agri-tech, we won't have enough food into the future. We thank you for the opportunity.